In my last Fallout video, I mentioned that GameInformer had a big reveal for Fallout 76 coming, and it's finally here. Unfortunately, we still don't have any new footage or images, which kinda surprised me, but we did get a ton of new details on the experience that we're getting in just a few more months. Honestly, marketing for this game has been overall very weird just because of all the games coming this fall 2018, and Fallout 76 really being the only game we have not really seen much gameplay footage of. Anyway, I'm sure there is some sort of strategy that Bethesda has, or unless maybe they're just waiting to unload once we get closer to the beta. Either way, today we have a lot of new information to discuss and break down. GameInformer spent a lot of their piece covering what Fallout 76 is, and they provided details on the PvP mechanics and perk cards, all stuff that we've known about, but they did give some very key information which may or may not make people happy. First, let's begin with the story, which thus far has been somewhat of a mystery. We've heard pieces on what Fallout 76 main quest is about, but we now really have a confirmation of what it is. So, as you leave the vault for the first time, the player will receive a transmission from the Overseer. Bethesda's Todd Howard further explains, "She left before everybody. She left specific instructions for you, and that's kind of the jumping on point for what we call the main quest. At the end of it, you launch the nukes. The nukes are a game system, but they are also part of the story. Furthermore, this main quest is supposed to be lengthy as it takes players all across the different regions of West Virginia, and you'll encounter optional side quests along the way, but the main quest can't be completed fast as the player will be required to be a higher level. Interestingly enough, there actually will be no dialogue options or trees in the game. NPCs like robots will still talk to us, but there is no dialogue coming from us, and no way for us to steer the conversation in a different way. Ultimately, this goes back to my theory from the start that the reason why Bethesda has not really talked about much of the story is because the game isn't about that. Bethesda mentions that there will be some interesting NPCs for us to encounter and interact with, but the goal is for players to be the real storytellers. Player size has been something we've been discussing since the beginning, and Bethesda has emphasized that this is not an MMO and there won't be hundreds of people running across West Virginia, but they did confirm the player count will be 24 players with a limit of 4 players per team, which seems like a good amount of players to fill this massive world and achieve the goal of having interactions with other players being something rare. Interestingly, Bethesda's Todd Howard was asked if players could join a faction that may support more people, and his response was, "We'll answer that later," with a smile, which seems to be some indication of player-made or supported factions being possible. Now, continuing on the open world, Todd Howard shed some more light into how exploring West Virginia will be very different, and in certain areas more dangerous, saying it's more of a zoned game and more level jumped than our previous stuff. Some of the feedback that we have gotten is, "I'm just going to run across the map, I died, it got hard." There's a reason for that. We have higher level zones. Essentially, if a player enters a zone, the enemies around you will spawn based on your level. If you're in a group, the first player that enters that zone will set the level ranges. So if you're level 40 and you're first in a specific zone, then all the enemies and things will spawn between level 40 to 60. Right now, we know the world of West Virginia is separated into 6 regions, and Todd Howard stated to GameInformer that Cranberry Bog will be really hard. So my expectation is that the main quest obviously starts in the forest. Maybe Cranberry Bog will be our final stop, as it appears that may be the most dangerous part of the map. Now, something new that Bethesda is introducing is events. Todd Howard explains, "When you get near one, it starts broadcasting for help. It's like a timed multiplayer quest. Once you actually locate one of these events, you'll be able to fast travel towards it, but this seems to be a feature aimed for teams of players." Jeff Gardner, the project lead on Fallout 76, gave one example of a smaller event, which is, you'll get a call about robots in distress and you basically have to go and escort them to various locations. If they live in the end, you get a reward. That's a random event that will spawn. Some people will join you or not. The robots have a lot of character, and they are sort of the levity of the mission. You'll follow along and they'll make little comments to you. Personally, this sounds similar to Fallout 4's random encounters, but apparently Bethesda is being tight-lipped on what exactly we can expect from these random events, but Gardner did note that this would often give the best rewards and loot. Jeff Gardner furthermore would discuss the content within Fallout 76. First, he would say, "You'll wander near or something, and we'll be alerted of a quest like explore this mine. In the past, we thought that was maybe a little gamey, but we want you to find it. We're being very proactive with where this content is. You'll have a lot to do very quickly. Gardner would also add that because the world is so vast, points of interest are spread out, meaning that things won't be crammed into one specific location, and he would also joke that there is a scary amount of stuff in the game. I'm always for more and more content, but I also look for high quality content, because in Fallout 4 the Radiant quest and some of the go there kill that missions were boring and got repetitive fast. Fallout 4 did have some interesting side content without any NPCs at all, particularly the mystery of Dunwich Borers was extremely spooky but compelling. Either way, many developers highlight how much content is in their game, but what matters most is how interesting and enjoyable the content is. Next, Bethesda details more about the camp system. In Fallout 76, you'll be able to build your settlement with workbenches, farm fields, and harvesters. Also, where you place your camp will be very important, as some areas offer more benefits than others. Like for one, some locations will include valuable resources that you can utilize. Todd Howard would explain harvesting in Fallout 76 by saying, "There's a lot more harvesting. We have harvesters and things like that for regenerating resources. It's machinery. If you find a deposit of aluminum, you can harvest those resources." Now, if you're a part of a group of players, you'll actually be able to connect your camps to make some sort of mega camp. Chris Mayer, development director on the game, further would add that we had one test where a dozen people built their camps next to each other and created an enormous city. As you explore the world, apparently you'll also find public workshop spaces that you can take over, which have a lot of supplies. You can also build in these spaces, but there will be enemy waves that attack this spot. These camp locations are only temporary though, and once you leave, another team can take control and gain supplies as the resources seem to regenerate. The final thing added about camps is that enemy players can walk into your camp and harvest, or well, I should say, steal your plants, but Bethesda still is working on that system, because if you do choose to steal someone's plants, there apparently will be consequences as you committed a crime. Overall, some other final new details is that hunger and thirst isn't the only thing that you'll have to worry about, as radiation and toxic airs will be other dangers. Power armor no longer acts like a vehicle. In Fallout 4, once you ran out of fusion cores, you would have to leave the armor behind. Obviously you could take some of the parts of it, but you couldn't take the framework. But in Fallout 76 you will be able to pick up the framework and store it in your inventory. But that for the most part is all the new information that we got from GameInformer's Fallout 76 piece. And I highly recommend that you read the full issue, as there's a lot more in-depth details added on things like PvP. But I certainly feel that some are going to like this new information and others aren't, which seems to be the reception this game has garnered since the reveal. Some of my personal last thoughts is I really think the size of the world and how many players around you is fitting. Fallout 76 is 4 times bigger than Fallout 4, so that means around 6 players within Fallout 4 should be our expectation with how often or little we see other players. Now, the fact that the camp system can be connected is really interesting, because building massive structures certainly seems likely, and I do like this addition, which will be even better once private servers are added. But the removal of dialogue is something I feel very mixed about, because I had assumed that there would be some role playing within the main quest, but it seems like this is going to be very linear. Obviously that isn't a bad thing, just different, and this game really is extremely different than all past Fallout games, or really all Bethesda Game Studios made games. But yeah, there certainly is some really cool new details, but I still have many questions that probably will not be answered until the beta arrives in probably early October. Right now I'm just hopeful we get a nice maybe 10 to 15 minute gameplay video showing off many of the new features that's been discussed, like the Wanted system. But now looking forward, there really isn't any big gaming events, so it's a bit of a mystery when we'll see more of Fallout 76. I imagine the next step is the official announcement of when the beta starts, which could or hopefully is accompanied with some gameplay. GameStop did recently have a date leaked which said October 12th for something pertaining to Fallout 76, which right now people are speculating that that could be the beta date. which I feel makes some sense because being close to Red Dead Redemption 2 at the end of the month, probably not the best choice, although that is the launch day of Black Ops 4. Either way, the beta has to be coming earlier in October. But yeah, certainly a lot of positive new details, but some new questions raised on things like the story. Some games like BioShock and Borderlands told a phenomenal story without NPCs having to be right in front of your face, so hopefully Fallout 76 can succeed, but only time will tell. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on everything that we discussed. Which detail or feature do you like or don't like? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. But thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video or found any informative value, and consider subscribing for much more Fallout 76 content to come, and I'll see you later.